Welcome to an edition of the podcast that we were probably doing 10 days before we wanted to do. But here we are, looking at the postmortem of Pakistan's World Cup. Disaster this time with me, our usual panelists. They've been here many times before, and thank you again for coming. Izzy, Amar, and Ali Asad. Welcome, gentlemen.
You had to have A as an initial to be on this podcast.
I had to have three very nuanced thinkers who are not going to overreact.
तो उमर खान को फिर हम रिमूव कर देते हैं. Once.
My reactions are always within reason. Trust me.
So let's start before the World Cup, because no performance is in a vacuum. And let's start with three dates. September 2021, December 2022, and then July 2023. These are three dates where you had change of leadership in the Pakistan board. So if you could see, within a 2-year span, you had three different leaders. Then you had the disaster of the Asia Cup. You had an injury to Naseem. Was there any chance that this could have been a successful campaign given the events leading up to this? Or is that too simplistic a take? Before we get into the World Cup, let's start with that. Ali Asad, you, then Amar, then Azy.
I think that is a little bit simplistic because Abdullah Bhai mentioned this earlier and I agreed with him, and it's a really good point. I think that a lot of the cricket we played between the 2019 and 2023 World Cup, it sort of masked our deficiencies. And this World Cup, even though we underperformed according to our own ceiling as well, it sort of showed us how ODI cricket is meant to be played. And if you think about it and you compare your players, your batting lineup to the top teams that made the semis, India specifically, South Africa, Australia, even New Zealand, I think there is a huge skill gap in that middle order. And I think that middle order specifically sort of sums that all up. And it's honestly the same with your top order as well. I feel like some of the players that we thought were really, really good weren't quite as good as we thought they were, and maybe not up to the mark compared to players from other teams. And I think that T20 cricket, where you can be saved by a good bowling attack, and our T20 bowling attack is quite good, and bilateral cricket, where teams send worse bowling attacks, worse teams in general, I think they do a good job of masking these deficiencies. So this World Cup, which is to quite an extent like a 340, 350 plus World Cup, where teams are out batting other teams. If you look at all teams that made the semis, New Zealand, India, Australia, except for India, I would say, who've been like amazing with the ball as well. All teams to an extent South Africa have outbatted others. And I look at our team and I think even if these guys did perform to their potential, I don't think they even have the batting ceiling that can match other teams in the first place. So I would say it is true, the premise that you said, that all this chaos in the board and the Asia Cup and Naseem's injury, of course, that all plays a part, and that did sort of mess with our chances. But if I zoom out and I sort of take the emotions out of it and I look at this team, I think that there is an evident skill gap. That's just how I see it.
Let me, before I come to you, Amar Bhai, let me add to that, to what you're going to say. So I do agree with you, Ali. I would add that part of the responsibility of the board is to create forward-thinking plans. And I think when you play so many T20 games and you sort of limit how the number of tests and ODIs that you play, it lends to this skill gap in a longer format tournament. And that also goes to board responsibility. Amar Bhai, your thoughts on the lead up to this tournament, short term and long term? I think it's not just a 2-month lead up, it's a 2-3 year lead up. You have to, you look in soccer before a FIFA World Cup, teams have a 3-4 year plan.
Yeah, I don't think it is too simplistic of a view to say that. I think that It was the warm-up game before the World Cup started, 3 days before the World Cup was meant to start, when you finally decided your number 5 batsman. That is embarrassing. That is shocking to me. That is crazy to me. And the same player that you selected for your middle order was not was part of the squad only for the tournament preceding the World Cup, and that player did not play a single minute in that tournament. I'm talking about South Shakil and I'm talking about the Asia Cup. So teams are meant to be ready for a major tournament at least 12 months before that. And then you're meant to have a schedule which helps them perform or helps them essentially gel together, team chemistry, as we like to call it. We don't have that. We do not play as a unit. If you look at the games that we have won against New Zealand, where Fakhr and Babar played as a unit. We have won against Sri Lanka, where Rizwan and Saud played as a unit. We have won against Netherlands, where once again Rizwan played as a unit with Saud Shakil. These are clear examples about how your team needs to play as a unit as opposed to individual performances. That's how you win a match. This is how you win tournaments. You cannot bank on one player or two player to get you across the line in a tournament like this. It is just not sustainable. So yes, we have not worked towards our best squad, and it is 11th of November 2023, and I can assure you that we have another World Cup coming up in 6 months, and we are still not going to be prepared for that. The team that plays the next T20 in January against New Zealand will be vastly different to the team that plays the first match in the World Cup in 2024 June. And this is a symptom of a terrible management. This is a symptom of a terrible board. This is a symptom of a clear lack of policy as to the selection of your team. These players who you put together to play a World Cup just so that you have enough players to play a World Cup, they've never played with each other as much as they want to play with each other. They don't have those on the field dynamics which support you to progress to the next level. It's like an example in football as well. You look for these little intricate partnerships on the field, and we don't have that. And not only we don't even have that because of selection, we also don't have that because of our FTP. We simply do not play enough quality cricket to allow these players to play together and find patterns that work for them and that which work for the team. So yes, I think that is a huge reason. I think that's probably one of the major reasons as to our failure in this World Cup.
Easy.
यार देखिए मेरी बात सुने, अभी इन दोनों ने अपनी बात कर ली, अब मैं स्टैट्स मैन हूं, लॉजिकल आदमी, मैं आपसे लॉजिकल बात करता हूँ। ये दो तो हमें पता है, उमर खान ने तो आपको पता है क्या ही कहना था भाई। रचिन रविंद्रा ने अपनी जिंदगी में टॉप 3 में नहीं खेला न्यूजीलैंड के लिए। ही वाज बैटिंग एट 7 and 6। उनका प्लान था कि वो वर्ल्ड कप में आएगा 300 ठोक देगा। व्हाट इज दिस नॉनसेंस? जब आपने राउंड रॉबिन स्टेज क्लियर करना, इट्स बेस्ड ऑन योर टॉप 3 डूइंग हैवी स्टैट पैड। उधर क्विंटन डी कॉक कर रहा है, चलो उसने बहुत आउटस्टैंडिंग परफॉर्मेंस दी। ऑफ कोर्स रोहित शर्मा, विराट कोहली आपके सामने है, कीवीज की बैटिंग आपके सामने, ऑस्ट्रेलिया की बैटिंग आपके सामने। ऑस्ट्रेलिया का प्लान था कि ट्रेविस हेड अपना हाथ तोड़वा के वापस चले जाएगा। इट्स जस्ट हैपनस्टेंस यार। हर चीज एक प्लान, हर चीज एक स्ट्रेटेजी, हर चीज एक मार्शल प्लान के हिसाब से नहीं चलती। हमारी बैड लक ये थी कि द टीम was in a funk since that match, that reserve day match with India, के थोड़ा लग रहा था कि वाइब ऑफ है थोड़े से। उधर एक वो आगे थे ना, वो आपके हैजर्ड सिग्नल आती है डैशबोर्ड पे कि यार चेक इंजन की कुछ ठीक नहीं है, इधर देयर वाज समथिंग मिसिंग। अब ये क्या मसला है? अब वो तो इंटरनल प्रॉब्लम्स होंगी या कोई डिस्कॉर्ड होगी या वैसे ही वो ट्रैवल के साथ वो थोड़ी सी एग्जॉस्शन हो गई थी। समथिंग वेंट रॉन्ग बिसाइड्स द नसीम इंजरी। अब वो बाद में अब इंकशाफ होंगे कि क्या हुआ क्या नहीं हुआ। मे बी विल फाइंड आउट, मे बी वी नेवर विल, बट just going into the tournament our form and the vibe was a little bit off. तो I think उधर कुछ मसला हुआ है। फिर वही बात है जैसे मैंने कहा, to clear the round robin stage of a World Cup, your top 3 needs to score heavily and everything else stems from that. वो हमें कभी मिला नहीं। इमामुल हक वही जैसे बार बार कहते हैं 7 साल की इन्वेस्टमेंट है, didn't pay off. फखर जमान या तो नी इंजरी थी या he was out of form, either they were protecting his reputation or he just wasn't in form, and बजात ही मेरिटेड था कि यार उसको ड्रॉप करना। अब तो हाइंडसाइड के साथ हम कह सकते हैं ओ कैसे आपने फखर जमान को निकाल दिया, इतना बड़ा मैच विनर। भाई उसके पिछले 15 मैच आप देख रहे हो, उसने 20 रन नहीं किए हुए थे, उसका ड्रॉप होना बनता था। अब ठीक है, he played two outstanding innings and now we all look foolish कि we ever doubted him, but the facts are he was not delivering and deserved to lose his spot in the side. And of course Abdullah Shafiq did very very well. अगर हम देखें तो यार वी शुड हैव वॉन 2 or 3 games. चलो इंडिया वाला वाज अ ब्लो आउट, बट द ऑस्ट्रेलिया गेम वाज इन हैंड, द साउथ अफ्रीका गेम वाज इन हैंड, द अफगानिस्तान गेम वाज अ डिजास्टर, दैट वाज अ मेजर स्लिप अप। लेकिन तब भी आप रिकवर कर सकते थे, बट वी जस्ट कुडंट, वी डिडंट हैव द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ द कंडीशंस, वी डिडंट हैव perhaps the skill level at the right moment as well to get over that hump and get those clutch victories. ऑस्ट्रेलिया आपके सामने यार 390 उनसे वो हारने वाले थे धर्मशाला में, वो उन्होंने क्लच विक्ट्री निकाल ली। इंग्लैंड के खिलाफ उन्होंने क्लच विक्ट्री निकाली। सो इट्स जस्ट दैट सेल्फ बिलीफ, जस्ट दैट having that positive mindset। वो आई थिंक हम बहुत ज्यादा प्रेशर में आ गए, बहुत ज्यादा दबाव में आ गए, एंड थिंग्स डिडंट रियली गो अवे। वी डिडंट प्ले वेल फॉर श्योर, लेकिन थोड़े से वो जो 1%ers होते सादी भाई, वो भी हमारे खिलाफ गए थे। सो आई थिंक वी जस्ट नीड टू कट दीज बॉयज अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ स्लैक। इट्स स्टिल अ वेरी यंग टीम यार, 23, 24, 25, चलो ठीक है, बाबर वाज इन हिज प्राइम, वी एक्सपेक्टेड अ लॉट मोर फ्रॉम हिम, लेकिन अभी भी बहुत यंग टीम है एंड इट्स ओनली गोइंग टू बोर्ड वेल फॉर द फ्यूचर। वो होता ना, इट वाजंट द राइट टाइम और दे डोंट विन इट एट द राइट टाइम, कभी कभी ये चीजें लेट भी हो जाती हैं। सो चलो 2027 में सही।
I grant you that there was some luck involved, but I do think you're not giving, you're letting the board off the hook too easily in their planning for this World Cup. It's I think the lack of. I'll give you an example. Amar, I mentioned the New Zealand T20 series. What is more likely to be the case, that the team that plays that first game in New Zealand is more similar to the last test against Australia, or more similar to the first game of the T20 World Cup? And I bet you they'll have the same test team basically for the most part playing that T20 series against New Zealand. And by the time it comes to the World Cup, you'll have a completely different team. Whereby you should, what they should do is basically plan accordingly and have 2 separate squads go to, Australia, New Zealand. Let's move on. Let's go to the bowling. So historically, it's always been a source of pride for Pakistan cricket, but it was an abject failure. If you look at the team's economy rate, second worst in the World Cup, 6.21 runs per over. Only Sri Lanka's was worse. We were worse than Bangladesh and New Zealand. If you look at the number of runs conceded, Haris Rauf broke the record for the most number of runs conceded by a bowler in a World Cup, 533. And then surprisingly, Shaheen is also, I think, right up top on that list, 481. Shaheen, in 9 matches, 33 overs in his first spell, only 1 wicket in the power play if you exclude the 2 against Bangladesh. If you look at our spinners, Shadab 2 wickets, Nawaz 2 wickets, Osama Mir 4 wickets. Shadab's average above is 118, Nawaz's, Nelson, 111. Osama Mir 62. Nope, none of these guys are, lighting the world on fire. What happened to the bowling attack? This, is it just a straw that broke the camel's back? Is just a collection of serial failures, whether it's overplaying Shaheen, whether it's Shadab just losing the skill set that he had? Was it the lack of a developed spinner? Was it Naseem's injury, just this coming together of a perfect storm? Or is there a systemic issue there? We'll go backwards. AZ, you start.
सादी भाई ये बड़ा जबरदस्त आपका सवाल है एंड इट्स क्वाइट हार्ड टू एक्सप्लेन टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट। ठीक है, आवर बॉलिंग अटैक वाज अ वेरी फाइनली ट्यून मशीन के भाई नसीम और शाहीन का एक तालमेल बना हुआ है। ऑफ कोर्स नसीम वाज अ बिग लॉस, जस्ट दैट his presence allowed Shaheen to express himself and try to bowl full. I think a few matches we also got the worst of the conditions when it was bowling कि चलो हमें थोड़ी under lights आ गई, थोड़ा सा ड्यू था, ये वो था, but that's certainly not an excuse. I think शाहीन के बारे में यार बंदा कैसे एक्सप्लेन करे। आई थिंक के ही गॉट इन दैट रन कंजर्वेशन मोड, वो जो 1-2 मैच में उन्होंने पहले ही पिच द बॉल अप एंड ही गॉट हैमर्ड एंड देन परहैप्स ही लॉस्ट हिज कॉन्फिडेंस एज वेल, सो ही इज लाइक फाइन, आई एम जस्ट गोना bowl line and length, I'm trying to bowl economically in the power play overs, and that naturally is not his style, that's not his strength. Plus दूसरी तरफ Hassan Ali, he was okay in the World Cup in patches, but वही है, when we couldn't get that early thrust in the power play wickets. That was our entire template कि भाई ये शुरू में 2 विकेटें उड़ाएंगे, फिर हम प्रेशर बिल्ड करेंगे, डॉट बॉल प्रेशर बिल्ड करेंगे, फिर शायद स्पिनर्स कुछ कर लें. एंड द स्पिनर्स, वेल, I think what 2 wickets for Shadab in the entire World Cup, 2 wickets for Nawaz. जो हमारी सबसे बड़ी strength, we thought our perceived strength, कि हमारे frontline spinners, हमारे bowling all-rounders भी थे और बैटिंग में चिप इन करते थे. That was such a fine balance. और जहाँ उनकी परफॉर्मेंस खराब हुई, then our teams बिल्कुल जो मेकअप था बिल्कुल ही खराब हो गया. एंड वी ऑनेस्टली, ठीक है, अर्ली ओवर्स विकेट्स नहीं मिली, लेकिन इट वाज अ स्पिनर्स वर्ल्ड कप. आपने देखा एडम जैम्पा, ही गॉट 21 विकेट्स, कुलदीप यादव इज बॉलिंग ब्यूटीफुली, एंड एवरीबॉडी एल्स, इवन यार क्या नाम है इसका, ग्लेन फिलिप्स विकेट ले रहा है, Rachin Ravindra wicket ले रहा है, Mitchell Santner in the first couple of weeks was the best bowler of the World Cup. So we really just couldn't bounce back after that. और बस वही देख रहे हैं कि इट्स रनिंग रिपेयर शॉप ही चल रहा है. कभी वसीम जूनियर खेल रहा है, कभी हसन अली खेल रहा है. सो एंड हारिस रऊफ, वेल, बंदा क्या बोले यार, ही इज मेकिंग द रिकॉर्ड्स फॉर द रॉन्ग रीजंस. सो आई थिंक एक तो इनएक्सपीरियंस ऑफ इंडियन कंडीशंस भी था, प्लस वही दैट फ्रेंजी ऑफ T20 क्रिकेट. दे हैवंट रियलाइज्ड कि यार 60 बॉल्स के जो आपने स्पेल्स डालने पड़ते हैं, it requires consistency, it requires patience. You cannot bowl those magic deliveries that will just get the batter out. He does not have to go after you. He can see you off and he can wait for your bad balls. And it's not just our bowlers. Rashid Khan का example मैं आपको देता हूँ. In 9 matches of the World Cup, he only has 10 wickets. And you would think that Rashid Khan, who has loads and loads of IPL experience, he knows these pitches. Even he, because of his over reliance on his T20 skills, has not bowled as well as you would have thought. I think he's averaging in the mid 30s or the high 30s. तो उन्होंने भी उस तरीके से अच्छी बॉलिंग नहीं कराई. And our bowlers did not have the experience to be able to switch from the T20 mode of bowling to the ODI format of bowling, जो आपको रिक्वायर्ड होती है कि भाई ठीक है, अगर आपको मूवमेंट में नहीं मिल रही, जस्ट बॉल ऑन अ लेंथ, विकेट टू विकेट करो, प्ले ऑन द पेशेंस ऑफ द बैटर्स. अब हमेशा वो जो हॉलीवुड डिलीवरी सो टू स्पीक कराने की कोशिश करते रहे, स्पेशली हारिस रऊफ. उनका नेचुरल रिएक्शन है भाई पड़ गई तो आई एम गोना काउंटर अटैक इवन मोर, एंड ही इज लीक्ड इवन मोर रन्स. सो आई थिंक इट्स जस्ट अ लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस. होपफुली it will, put them in better stead for the future. I hope they evolve their skills. और मजे की बात ये है कि यार ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने डैनियल विटोरियो को स्पिन कंसल्टेंट रखा हुआ है स्टोर के लिए, और हमारे पास कोई स्पिन कोच है ही नहीं. हमारे लड़के कभी इंडिया में बॉलिंग कराई नहीं, उनको ग्राउंड का पता नहीं है, और हम ऐसे ही चले गए हैं. शदाब, नवाज और उसामा को ऐसे ही छोड़ दिया कि भाई बेस्ट ऑफ लक टू यू, डू व्हाट यू कैन. एंड वी हैव नेवर बीन एबल टू रिकवर. इट्स बीन अ डिजास्ट्रस tour for our spin bowlers all round.
You mentioned Vittoria, you mentioned Zampa. I was impressed with how Zampa's bowling actually improved over the course of the World Cup. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that AZ makes a good point. If they all think they're bowling in a T20 match, it's embarrassing. We had, it's the over reliance on this idea that these players have, that they're good for all formats, and I just disagree with that. I think that you have players in your past which could bowl 20 overs, 30 overs a day. You don't have that anymore. You don't play that much cricket anymore. You play too much T20 cricket, and you don't play enough one-day cricket. That's actually a very good point that AC made, that they're still in T20 mode and they're trying to implement the same thing in one-day internationals. But I also want to, you asked me what went wrong. 2 words come to mind, and those 2 words are Rohit Sharma, because that Asia Cup game, which felt like a test match, which was rained off, the way he treated your bowlers, it was one of the worst defeats in Pakistan's history in one-day internationals. That game, I genuinely think, broke the camel's back. It broke our spirit. It broke our team spirit. There were rumors after that. I'm sure you remember there was media talk about infighting in the dressing room, which I really hoped and prayed was true. So I mean, it's stuck with them. It destroyed their morale. It destroyed their their confidence, and that is showing. They don't have the skill of a one-day bowler. Because they don't play enough one-day cricket, and that is bound to happen. And I agree with that. That's anything that he said.
Ali, if that's true, what's the solution then? Because do we have enough talent to have multiple teams?
I think that it's important to hold athletes accountable when their career progression is questionable. Like if you look at Shaheen, he has declined as a bowler. If you look at Shadab, his decline has been the worst. He was a decent bowl. He barely played first class cricket and he debuted for Pakistan because he had a lot of raw leg spin talent. He had a good googly. Wo 17 Champions Trophy, maybe he bowled quite well. 19 World Cup, maybe he was one of the better spinners of that World Cup, agar aap logon ko yaad ho. But 8 years after the Champions Trophy, he averages 118 in the World Cup in what should be the best conditions for him, and he picks up 2 wickets against I think Netherlands or something, and he can't seem to land 2 balls on the same spot. He can't generate any turn. I think when you have multiple of these players declining as their career progresses, when in reality they should be getting better, I think that is when you should start questioning the culture and the system. Because it's all well and good if we point fingers at players, and we should hold every player accountable, each one of them. But the solution, I feel, lies in the system. If you look at Shaheen, for example, he has a bunch of technical issues and all of that, and the way he's been managed. And you can just go back and look at his bowling in 2021 and just see the difference visually. It's massive. You look at Shadab, what is he doing in the off season? I question that. He's playing T20 leagues, whatever, that's fine. It's his right. That's a separate discussion. He's a good T20 bowler, but who is overseeing his ODI bowling? Like, who is he working with in the off season? Does he have the required resources, the required personnel who can help him with his bowling? Look at Nawaz. Nawaz just 1 year ago was a much better bowler than this. Just 1 year ago, he bowled really well in that New Zealand home series that we lost 1-2. He bowled really, really well. He was generating good turn off of a good length. Now he can't seem to turn the ball 1 inch, 1 degree, even if his life depended on it. So, like, you have to question more than. I think the T20 thing plays a massive part, specifically when it comes to Shadab. I think that plays a huge part. But with the rest of these guys, you have to question the technical aspect, the behind the scenes work, who is working on these guys, because this level of decline, it has to be more than a mental thing. Because if it was a mental thing, yes, he wouldn't land the ball in the right area and so on and so forth. But you don't lose 10 kilometers of pace because you're like mentally shot. You don't forget how to turn the ball even against weaker sides if you're mentally shot. It has to be something more than that. I think it is true that this team there is a question mark on their mentality, and there should be. But I think it is more than that. It is the work they're putting in the off season, because you don't develop your bowling when you're with the side and you're touring. You develop your bowling in the off season. Look at India, Kuldeep Yadav, Mohammad Shami. There's countless stories of how these guys worked on their bowling, but you don't really hear stories about our guys. So I question both the individual's commitment, but I also question the resources and people they have at their disposal. So I think it's a collective individual as well as systemic failure when it comes to our bowling.
Would you take Shaheen to Australia for a test series? I mean, if the goal is to win T20, the 2024 T20 World Cup, and he clearly needs what I would consider lab work. He needs to go to a biomechanics lab, really break down his bowling action and start from scratch and building up. What's the point of him going to Australia? Same thing with the Harris. Would you take him there?
I think सादी भाई ये कहने में चीजें अच्छी होती हैं कि
These are easy
ऑस्ट्रेलिया
to
में तो
correct. You have to. But
yeah, like
question
it's
is
also like
how much do
an
you lose
Australia
to-
tour, while we don't have any chance of winning it, and I think everyone will agree कि हम जीत तो नहीं सकते. You still have to take your best resource, the best resources at your disposal. I think this isn't a bilateral 1-day series or T20 series where you can say, okay, like let's let these guys rest up. We have a T20 World Cup coming. I think it's it happens once every few years. So I think it's something that has to be taken seriously, even if it's utterly hopeless and your bowlers need work. I think you have to take your best possible bowlers. I would rest Shaheen in T20 eyes. I would maybe look at his like what leagues he's playing. But when it comes to Test cricket, specifically considering the fact that Pakistan barely has any Test cricket anymore, and we play like what, two Tests over the next year, two, four Tests, something like that, and over the next 5 years we play like even fewer Tests. I think it's a bit wasteful to miss out on the Tests that you do get. So I do think that it is possible for him to play the Australia Test Series and still be fit for the World T20 and in rhythm. I think there is enough of a gap there. There's like a 4 month March. There's like a 4 or 5 month gap between the Australia Test Series and the World T20. I think that's more than enough time for him to sort things out if he has the right guidance between the Test Series and the World T20. I think what I will question is if he is played in random bilaterals and leagues between the Australia Test Series and the World T20.
Fair enough. Let's go to Mickey Arthur. Probably going to lose his job. How much responsibility is on him, and how much is on Babar, the captain, for these random decisions, playing two leg spinners against Afghanistan, not having Fakhr against Australia, promoting Ifti up the order against South Africa, stuff like that? Where is that balance in this team, Amar bhai?
So I personally think that Mickey needs to go.
He is going to go. I don't see any.
Yeah,
but let's talk about the think tank behind this World Cup.
The think tank behind this World Cup was. So let's just go back before that. We've had 3 coaching staffs in about 2 years now, right? Yet our team has continued to fail at every juncture, right? At what point do we call out the players, right? At what point do we call out the on-field decisions which the management is not responsible for? We need to call those out as well. Now, having said that, that does not absolve the current management of the issues that it does have. Mickey Arthur is known for being a very strict quartermaster in respect of fitness, right? None of these players look fit, apart from maybe Rizwan, right? None of them look fit. But Mickey Arthur is also known for not having a strong tactical acumen, right? But that is there for everybody to see. So we're getting the bad things, but we're not getting the good things. Normally, in an ideal situation, we would get his terrible tactical acumen, which we are already. But to balance that off, we would get an extremely fit team. So right now we only have the negative stuff. We don't have any of the positive stuff. So when he was appointed, when Morni Morkel was appointed, when Andrew Patek was appointed, I was a very happy camper because I felt this team needed a change of direction. It got it. And let's be honest with each other. People and coaches and managers around the world are not gunning to join our team. They're not, right? So we have to pick the best from the worst that is available. So in hindsight, I still do not regret Mickey Arthur's appointment. I think it was fine. I think the intention behind it was appreciable, especially by the previous management. Najam Sethi is who I'm referring to. And I think that it was the right choice. Sometimes things don't work out. That's just life. Going forward, things need to change because my problem, one of the other problems with Mickey is he's already worked with these people before. So in his mind, he already has his favorites. That is the exact same reason why you went and hired a foreign coach to begin with, because your management, your board thinks that local coaches favor players. So the irony is that you went and hired a foreign coach, which would essentially be doing the same thing a local coach would be doing in terms of his favorites. And I don't think he has the control of the dressing room. I think they do take him seriously, but there's a level of friendship which does not translate well in terms of who is the authority and who is not the authority there. So he is going to go, that's fine. Going forward, coaching changes need to be made. I think that you need to hire more coaches. You need to hire more coaches, not managers. You need this team director nonsense. It needs to stop. This is not a football club. This is a national team. There's a huge. If we do not require a sporting director, we do not require that. Um, we require an elite man manager, like somebody like a mentor, perhaps. We also require a spin consultant. We require a better fast bowling coach. We require a batting coach who is batting has regressed immensely. I wonder why Andrew Patek has not bended Babar Azam's ear as to his dismissals, because this is a glaring issue. It should not have been developed in the first place. But the first two times Babar Azam got out on mid wicket, his coach should have been up in his ear asking him that you're not allowed to play that shot. There are coaching failures and everything. That's fine, but my problem is, Sadi bhai, that if you change the coach tomorrow and you bring a new management staff, a lot of these problems will still persist. So the rot essentially goes much deeper than your coach. It goes to the board. It goes to the people who are doing the selection. It goes to your grassroots cricket. It goes to your school cricket. It goes to all of these places. NCA, right? It's a myth. I don't even know what it is. Nobody knows what it is. What happens there? Like, what do they do? Do they train people there? Can anybody go and train there? Who can go train there? It's just a joke at this point. So yeah, I'm not confident going forward, but I don't regret anything that has happened so far in respect to the management. I think it was necessary because people will now understand that it's not the coaching staff, it is these players who are subpar at their job.
Izzy, your thoughts on the coaching staff, management, the think tank of the team?
Sadi bhai, it's a results-based business. And
Right.
it's simple as that. Bhai Babar, to chalo, he had that kind of a brand and that kind of a stature in Pakistan cricket. He more or less gets to choose his destiny. कि भाई तुमने कप्तान रहना है या नहीं रहना. शायद ये भी हो जाए कि वो भी remove हो सकता है. It's very possible. But Mickey Arthur, आपके सामने results यार. We saw what happened in the Asia Cup. You finished bottom of the Super 4, even below Bangladesh. And we saw what happened in the World Cup. You once again failed to make it to the semi-final. So the writing is on the wall. तुम्हारे दो primary objectives to win one of these two and at least make the semi-finals to the other one. He failed in the first one. He failed in the second one. I don't see any मतलब कोई scene नहीं मुझे नजर आता कि on what basis you want to keep this guy. Plus, he is not this chairman's man. He was the previous chairman's guy. और मॉर्नी मॉर्कल ये वो तो इनका तो एब्जेक्ट फेलियर आपके बिल्कुल सामने है. वी नीडेड देयर एक्सपीरियंस कि हमारे लड़के इंडिया नहीं गए हुए. आपको ग्राउंड्स को पता है, आपने आईपीएल खेली हुई है, आपने मल्टीपल बायलैटरल टूर्स इधर साउथ अफ्रीका के लिए किए हुए हैं. यू आर सपोज टू इम्पार्ट योर नॉलेज एंड ट्राई टू इम्प्रूव दीज गाइज. And we have seen a complete devolution of this fast bowling skills. तो मॉर्नी मॉर्कल और एंड्रू पटेक और ये किस हिसाब पे खड़े हुए हैं? What performance do they stand on? They have absolutely nothing to talk about their results that they have delivered. ठीक है, in the end it's on the players, but coaching staff, it's very simple, it's cut and dry. You failed on your two major objectives, pardon me. So you need to go. It's as simple as that. Or ठीक है, maybe it's an emotional decision, maybe it's a rash decision, but this is like I keep saying, it's a results based business. और ये जो मिकी आर्थर का 1 foot in 1 foot out zoom coach, zoom management और ये वो स्टाइल, तो वैसे it was very hard to swallow for a Pakistan fan कि भाई हमारे लिए तो we cannot have our team as a second footing. और पहले ये इतरा रहा था आने के लिए, तो फिर ठीक है, just make his choice very simple for him. Get rid of him.
उसने मजाक से,
setup.
I don't know if you heard it, AZ, but आज भी उसने press conference में मजाक से कहा था, someone asked him कि इतना बुरा failure हुआ ये वो, तो are you worried about the aftermath? You will be held accountable. तो उसने आगे से कहा था कि I can go back to Derbyshire anytime. तो उसने उस तरह से hint किया था.
तो बस सही है, we should facilitate what he said. So we should facilitate his swift departure to Derbyshire as soon as possible.
How would you guys structure the future coaching setup? What would you, not names, but infrastructure-wise, how would you structure it? Give me a flow chart. What would you have?
That's a very good question, Sadi bhai. कि जो मॉडर्न हमें नजर आ रहा है कि भाई डायरेक्टर ऑफ क्रिकेट टाइप एक रोल तो होता है जो कोचिंग स्टाफ का. इंग्लैंड हैज दैट सेटअप and I think we are going to perhaps try to mirror that setup as well. It's not as easy to identify the right guy. The person we would want is probably not interested in long-term gigs. If they have IL contracts or IPL contracts or PSL contracts, just Mike Hesson just joined Islamabad United. I guess my inkling is that he doesn't want any long-term gigs or Islamabad United, of course, it's a right window. You just work for 5-6 weeks and then you do other assignments. So I think थोड़ा PCB को पैसा फेंकना पड़ेगा. It's money talks. It's as simple as that. If you want the top guys, you need to shell out the top dollars, you know. So it's as simple as that. You make an offer worthy enough for them to decide, okay, right, I want to commit to this side for the next 1 or 2 years. You're flush with cash. You're raking in the PSL big bucks. जो भी
गॉडफादर ही
T20
कोट कर
match.
लेते यार.
Make him an offer
गॉडफादर
he
ही
can't
कोट कर.
refuse. It's very, very simple, भाई. पैसा बोलता है तो पैसा फेंको. It's as simple as that. Get
But
your guy, give him what he wants.
I think you have to be creative in how you structure a contract. I think you have to give them 3-4 years contract guaranteed, paid up front, to buffer them from the shenanigans, political shenanigans, and who's the PCB chairman. At some point, they need to start moving from short-termism to a long-term view. Like, for example, I don't even know if they have a central database of every player.
सादी भाई, हमारे पास इधर एक लॉयर बैठा है, वो अपना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इसको फैक्स करके इसे चेक करवा लें. अब फैक्स में सोचे मैं फैक्स की बात कर रहा हूँ, किस जमानों की बात कर रहा हूँ. इसको एक PDF ही भेज दें व्हाट्सएप पे, ये रिव्यू कर लेगा, देख
Go
लेगा,
on,
कोई
Imam.
फाइन
How would
प्रिंट पढ़ लेगा
you,
अमार खान.
as a lawyer, how would you structure the new coaching setup?
It's not that difficult. In fact, Mickey Arthur's contract is already structured that way. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but basically what it says is that, I apologize for the fireworks. It's bonfire night here in the UK, so it's just gonna go back in the
और bonfire night नहीं, दिवाली है. bonfire
Oh,
कुछ
sorry,
लग दे.
yes, Diwali.
Guy Fawkes.
इधर इसको गाय फॉक्स याद आ रहा है. bonfire night.
Bonfire night was like last week, so you're right,
Yes.
absolutely.
Diwali.
Anyway, so the Mickey Arthur's contract is already structured that way, right? The only smart thing Mickey Arthur did was to make sure that he also had his Derbyshire job as well. That's the only difference. So his contract basically says is that if the management changes and if he's let go as a result of that change, he is going to get a lump sum of X amount of money, right? That amount is, as far as I can tell, obviously this is circumstantial and it may not be accurate, but it's around about $50,000 to $60,000. Okay, now that is what it is.
यार इतना तो सादी भाई के इस काउच में है यार, मुंह पे मारे उसके सादी भाई. खत्म करें यार.
Yeah, like that's the level they play at. This is the amount of money that they have. This is the amount of money that they can spend. It's shockingly less. I agree with you.
No, but how would you structure it? What would you have? Would you have a cricket director and then you'd have sort of regional coaches? How would you structure your national coaching?
Okay, here's what I would do. And I've thought about this many times. It's going to be a bit elaborate, but it needs to happen.
Go for it.
I would have 4 high performance centers in each province. I would have the previous county system that Pakistan, the domestic system that Pakistan had last year or the year before. I would put the departments under that instead of dissolving them. I would have 4 different heads of I would have 4 different ex-cricketers as heads of those under 19 or performance centers, and I would also task them with managing the regional team of that region. For example, if one NPC center is going to be in Quetta, I would have the Balochistan team under that. I would have similarly do that with NWFP, KPK. I would have that in Islamabad. I would have that in Punjab, and I would have that in Karachi, right? That's what I would do. I would task ex-cricketers to manage that. Out of that, I would get data of all the players that are performing in their respective regions, and I would pull them together to the main NPC, which we have. NCA is what they call it, and that is how I would structure it. In terms of the structure of the backroom staff, I don't believe in a team director, because a country like us, a culture like us, already promotes an insane amount of bureaucracy, and I think that is not going to work. We've had somebody who has had a job similar to that level, although it was not the same job, but we've had somebody who's had a job similar to that, and his name was Wasim Khan. He made a lot of decisions which were commercial, but he made a lot of decisions which were also related to on the field as well. And that is something that we've had. It does not work. I am not in favor of that. I need somebody who is a manager. I do not wish to get a coach. And I want 3 to 4 different coaches working under that one manager. That is what I would like. I want a batting coach. I want 2 bowling coaches, because we have a good bowling. I think that we need to supplement that as much as we can. So my traditional system does not include a team director. It includes a manager, because at this level of sport, you do not need coaching. And if you do need coaching, then you're in the wrong place, buddy. You should be going somewhere else to get coached, and it is only then that you should be in a position like this. So 4 coaches for the main team, headed by one manager. That is what I would prefer. And that manager obviously could be Mike Hessen, could be Matthew Hayden, could be anybody. I don't care. It is irrelevant. Because at that level, all you need is इनको मोटिवेट करने के लिए कोई होना चाहिए, इनको बताना चाहिए यार कि तुम ये नहीं खेल, स्ट्रैटेजी बना. आई वांट अ स्ट्रैटेजाइजर. I want somebody who's good with tactics. I want backroom stuff. I want all those spreadsheets in the background. That's what I want. I don't want any of these hybrid roles that we have right now. I don't know what Grant Bradburn does. I have no bloody clue what he does, right? I don't even know what Mickey Arthur does. I don't even know what Rehanul Haq does. What is a team manager? I don't understand what Rehanul Haq does as a job, right? What does
No,
he
that's
do?
a very good point.
Does he wake them up on time? Does he like go around knocking them at the door? Hey guys, it's time for practice. Can you just see me outside? Is that what he does? Do we seriously need people to pay people to do that? I have no clue what this designation of a team manager is. Is he a
Because
logistics
we
guy?
knew his role with a lot more clarity with Islamabad United. That's
Yeah,
the
of course, because he was the creative director of strategy. He knew what style of, he was the one person apart from us. I mean, he was the one person who decided that we are going to play foreign openers and we are going to make sure that they go gung ho in the first
Yep.
6 overs. That was a discernible way of style of play, right? We don't have that here. He is redundant in his role. You have hired an X person to do an A person's job, right? There's no purpose to it. There's no point to it. And so this is my point. Like there's a lot of roles which are hybrid, and nobody's doing what they should be doing. I would scrap it all. I would actually get rid of every single person who's currently employed in the back staff, because I don't want these players to have any level of familiarity with anybody who stays or comes back. I want there to be a clean slate. That's what I would do. So none of these hybrid roles. I want specialized people doing specialized roles. That's what I want. That's how every successful organization has worked throughout history. You've got specialized people doing specialized things, and this hybrid working from home nature does not work in professional sports, I'm afraid.
Ali, should Babar resign?
I think
He's
that
had plenty of years as captain. My thought is he failed in his primary task of what he had to achieve in 2023. And should he
I
resign?
think
Or
like AZ said that it's a results-based business. I think Babar has had enough time, enough tournaments, and I think there is enough evidence to suggest that it is time to change the captain, and not just for the betterment of the team, but also the betterment of Babar as an individual batsman. I think that I don't know if he should resign or not or be sacked. I don't know the process behind it. I don't know what the best way is to go about it, but I just think that it is time to bring in Rizwan as your captain. And in terms of Test cricket, honestly, I'm not sure. Some people are saying Shan Masood. So there are rumors saying Sarfraz is going to be your Test captain again. There's rumors saying Babar is going to stay the Test captain, but he's going to be removed from white ball cricket. All I know is that in white ball cricket specifically, uh, I think it's time to make Rizwan your captain, and you can have two different captains for your vice captains for your two different white ball sides. But I also think that it's important to keep a different captain for your Test cricket. Now, who that is, I'm not quite sure who that should be right now. But I don't think if you're making Rizwan your captain, I don't think he should be your captain in all three formats. I think there should be a separate white ball captain, separate Test captain. But yes, I think Rizwan, there have been question marks in the past about his tactical, like how strong he is tactically. But I think post that and the fact that he has worked with Andy Flower, I think it works both ways. A lot of people sort of discredit his success and say that it belongs to Andy Flower, but at the same time, you can also say that his exposure to Andy Flower would have given him a lot more sort of strategic game sense, provided him a lot more, given him a lot of growth, and on top of that, he is probably your most successful domestic captain as well. When he was the captain of KPKU, he was hugely successful, and people used to attribute that success to Abdul Rahman. They used to say he's the coach and Rizwan's just the dummy captain. But I think at some point, if someone is so successful as a captain at so many different levels, I think it is disingenuous to not give him the credit for that. And I think I don't want to believe too much in these rumors and leaks and all, but I think there is enough evidence at this point to suggest that the command and respect that he has over the dressing room and all the different factions in your team. I don't mean faction in a negative sense, just all the different groups in your team. I don't think anyone even comes close to him. Not Babar, not Shadab, not Shaheen. I think he by far commands the most respect in this team. And that, even if there is no added tactical bonus to this team by making him captain, which I don't think there will be. I mentioned in your podcast last time that changing the captain, I don't think it's going to change the identity of the team too much. But what it will do, I feel, is sort of improve your chances in those marginal situations just because of his positive influence on the team and the way people listen to him behind the stumps. So yes, I would like to see Rizwan as white ball captain for sure.
Hazy Amar, should he resign himself or should he leave it up to the board to make that decision? Hazy?
Amar, you want to go first? Go ahead.
He needs to resign. He needs to resign before he lands, and if he doesn't, the board should fire him before the plane lands. I'm serious. It has gotten way too far. This is and I was saying this earlier today as well. I don't want the board to ask him to resign. Okay, I don't want that. I want it done in a way which sets an example. Because if a player like him can be made an example, that will echo throughout the team and it will make a difference. I don't want a boring press release relieving him of his duties. I do not want that.
I agree.
I'm not saying I want it to be
Professor
incredibly
step down.
toxic, but
Right.
I need some sort of a strong effort from the board to relieve him of his duties, thank him from his services, and also add a line that hopefully this will help him focus on what he's actually meant to be doing. So for me, it's more than just letting him go. He needs to resign. If he has any shame, he will do that. I know power is a very attractive thing that you wish to hold on to it, and whatever it is, that's fine. But at this point, he needs to understand that where does he want to be on the right side of history? How does he choose to? How does he want to be remembered? This is a really important moment in Babar Azam's life. How does he want to be remembered? Does he want to be remembered as a failed captain, or does he want to be remembered as a really good, amazing, one of the best, probably the best batsman of all time in Pakistan history? Right? He has a clear choice to make right now. I, for one, do not think that he has the foresight or the intelligence to make that choice himself. Neither does he have for a lack of a better word, the guts to do that. So he's not going to do that. I don't expect him to do that. Should he? Yes. Will he? No. What's the next alternative? The board needs to take action. The board needs to do that in a way which sends a message to the other players who are comfortable right now, that because of your inept and incompetent manner of playing your sport, this guy has had to lose what he held so dear to him. And that can happen again and again and again until you fix up. There needs to be a message. And I just want to add on top of Ali Asad's point, Rizwan is the answer. He needs to be the captain in all white ball formats. We are playing that. We don't have time to risk. We don't have time to delay that appointment. We have a competition we have a series in about a month and a half. We have a World Cup in 6 months. There is no time to delay a decision as key as this, because the quicker you bring him in, the quicker the players are going to get used to him, and the players will get used to him. Because I can quote Andy Flowers' statement. He said 4 lines about Rizwan, and they asked him, how do you think he is as a captain? And he literally says, and I'm going to quote Andy Flower right now. He says, I've worked with some really great captains over the years, and Rizwan, I find, is an excellent leader. He has strength and positivity, which means that people follow him. He thinks he has clear views on the game, and that makes him a leader that other people wish to follow. Now, I think that everybody here and our fans, I mean your fans as well, especially, sorry, it's your podcast, your fans, but your fans basically love Andy Flower. They know how key he is as a coach, so they will value his opinion. And if he's saying that about Rizwan, when I hear Babar Azam speak, I do not wish to listen to what he's saying. And I can assure you that the players feel the same way. There is no level of uh, leadership within him. And when I hear Rizwan talk, all I want to do is listen to him. So yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like I think this needs to happen sooner rather than later. This does not need to be a conversation about it at all. There is no argument to be had here. It is a summary crime. It is a summary offense that Babar Azam has committed, and he needs to pay the fine. Simple as that. It's like you break a red light. You don't care why you've done it. You still have to deal with the consequences, and this is one of those consequences.
Easy, Babar, captain.
यार देखें, जो इफ इट्स जस्ट अ कॉस्मेटिक चेंज देन देयर इज नो पॉइंट, क्योंकि हमें पता है एक जो ये क्लीक है प्लेयर्स का, द क्लीक जो रेसलिंग पार्लेंस में यूज कर रहा हूँ उनका, आई थिंक एक कोई ग्रुप होता था, वही 4 प्लेयर टीम चला रहे हैं. इट्स Babar Azam, it's Mohammad Rizwan, his most able lieutenant पे शाहीन शाफरीदी एंड टू एन एक्सटेंट शादाब खान. तो ताज उसके सर पे हो या उसके सर पे हो या उसके सर पे हो, व्हाट डिफरेंस डज इट मेक if it's just a cosmetic change? अगर ये 4 ही टीम चला रहे हैं, दिस इज जस्ट catharsis फॉर द फैंस कि भाई बाबर आजम के हमें स्टाइल नहीं पसंद, उसका इंटरव्यू नहीं पसंद, उसकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज नहीं पसंद, उसकी मोनोब्रो नहीं पसंद, तो ये these are cosmetic changes.
It'll help him, don't you think? It'll free up him from being able to bat. There is more of a
बट
benefit.
दैट्स अ सेल्फिश डिसीजन ना, कि हम चाहते हैं कि बाबर तू अपनी बैटिंग पे फोकस कर, और हमने देखा उसकी बैटिंग परफॉर्मेंस कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं हुई. As per the performance, he was averaging 70 plus over the last 3-4 years in one day cricket, so that has not affected his batting. इस साल भी हम इतना रो रहे हैं बाबर आजम की परफॉर्मेंस पे. He has 12 50 plus scores in 24 innings. तो even though we feel कि he's had a down year, his numbers are absolutely ridiculous. बात आ गई टीम की परफॉर्मेंस पे, और वही बात है, लाइक आई जस्ट सेड, इफ इट्स द सेम 4 people running the show, तो इट्स जस्ट सिंबॉलिक चेंजेस फॉर द सेक ऑफ इट. और वैसे भी अगर आपने रिजवान को वनडे कैप्टन लगा भी दिया है, एक साल में आपका एक भी वनडे नहीं है, यू आर जस्ट प्लेइंग अ ग्लट ऑफ T20s फॉर द नेक्स्ट 6 months. So there needs to be a bit of rationality to the changes. There needs to be a certain logic to the changes, just not to appease your emotions, just to appease your egos. आपको थोड़ा सा in the heat of the moment ऐसी decisions नहीं लेनी चाहिए, क्योंकि वो फिर वो rash decision होती है. If Babar wants to step down, then fair enough के he's had his go. I think 3 साल उसने कप्तानी कर ली है, 3.5 साल. If he feels कि I've had my go and it's enough, fair enough. But I don't think कि उससे छीन लेना और उसको ऐसे villainize करना और उसको antagonize करना, it doesn't make sense. It's not going to sit well with the fans in the long term. And honestly, I don't feel there's a big change कि आप अगर वही 3-4 बंदे वही टीम चला रहे हैं, so it doesn't make a difference whoever the captain is, क्योंकि it's a collective. तो अगर कलेक्टिव में वो कैपेबिलिटी नहीं है लीड करने की, फिर तो आप जिसको मर्जी कप्तान बना ले, फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा रिजल्ट्स में.
I know one thing. You remove Shadab as your one-day vice captain, please.
Well, I don't think he has a
Uski-
spot in the one-day team anymore going forward, so I don't think that's.
सादी भाई, वो सीजर का कौन सा एक वो कजन होता है ना जो उसको बैक स्टैब करता है,
Brutus.
I forgot his name.
Brutus.
तुम ब्रूटस वाला रोल कर रहे हो मिस्टर अली असद.
Brutus ने भी किसी वजह से ही मारा था ना उसे. He thought that was the best for the nation or whatever.
I love ribbing Ali Asad about his Shadab Khan takes. I love that. That makes my day.
I want to ask you, why does not he deserve to be removed as a captain? What logic is that?
अमार खान, ये आपके ईगो को सेटिस्फाई करने के लिए डिसीजन नहीं हो रही.
It's not about my ego.
फर्क ही कोई नहीं है भाई. उसका सबसे बड़ा लिeutenant और सबसे ट्रस्टेड एड ही रिजवान है.
I listen. This narrative in the media these days, and this narrative in between the fans, that whatever Babar is doing, he is doing.
ये वेस्टर्न प्रोपेगेंडा है कि ये वेस्ट बोल रही है. It's true, man.
This is absolutely nonsense. I'll give you an example, right? I'll tell you when Babar Azam should have actually been sacked. He should have been sacked during the test series against England, when he refused to show up to work during a test match because the security wouldn't let him go to dinner the night before. That is when he should have been sacked. That is quite possibly the most embarrassing moment
आपके
for any
आपके
captain.
कोर कमांडर को सैक होना चाहिए था उस वक्त, बाबर आजम को
यार
कैसे रोक सकता है?
क्या पता वो कड़ाई मजे की हो मार भाई, ये भी
नहीं,
तो आप सोचिए ना।
listen, no Kadai can this is
बट
a
कढ़ाई
sackable offense. This is a sackable offense. And secondly, I want to also talk about this thing that when Babar Azam has not been on the pitch acting as a captain, I have seen Rizwan's decisions and they are vastly different to what Babar Azam would have done. I'll give you an example. Do you guys remember in the Australia series, Cameron Green was batting and now Naseem Shah was bowling, right? And Babar Azam was not on the pitch. Naseem Shah was reverse swinging it like mad, and Rizwan was obviously keeping, so he could see the length and the line, and he knew what was going wrong for Naseem at the time. He came up to Naseem and he said, "Listen." He spoke to him for a good couple of minutes, and within the next 4 balls, Naseem Shah got his length right and he got Cameron Green out.
ये क्या
Now,
एनेक्डोटल एविडेंस तुम दे रहे हो यार?
Babar Azam would never have the foresight to do that. He would never have the brains to do it. In fact, he would not even be able to see how far it's swinging because where he
Another
feels.
instance is the Hassan Ali interview, right, where he said कि 21 के सेमीफाइनल में रिजवान ने मुझे कहा था कि do you want to swap your fielding position, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है उधर कैच जाएगा, और फिर उधर ही कैच चला गया था। अब ये तो भी that is not our हम ये अपने आप से तो नहीं बना रहे ना। Hassan clearly said that Rizwan approached him. तो if he was captain, then there was a chance कि वो हट जाता उधर से।
Yeah,
ये
what
भी
is
तो
the
देखो।
word for chalak in English? I
Oh,
can't
no,
say.
I don't think anyone is
Sly, I guess.
Yeah, I need somebody who's sly. I
Yeah,
need
who
somebody
has
a bit of a
now.
naughty
तो
streak with him.
फिर
Who
शाकिब
has
अल हसन को लगा दो अपना कैप्टन, वो भी सैक होने
no,
वाला है
but
उधर से।
AZ, you
Better
would
than Babar for sure.
you would admit that Babar doesn't exactly strike you as someone who has the most sort of tactical nous or acumen. He's not exactly a coach's captain out there who's come up with genius field positions, and he's been slow to react sometimes, be proactive, so on and so forth.
सादी भाई,
Something
मैंने तो
flips.
अपने एग्जिस्टेंस में ऐसा जीनियस कैप्टन पाकिस्तान का नहीं देखा।
No, but that's
I
what
don't
I'm saying.
know।
But that doesn't mean we stay with mediocrity. It means you give the next sort of person the chance to
If
then.
anything,
also
just
have
based
the
on what you
example-
said, if you apply the result-based thing to coaches AZ, तो कैप्टन पे भी वो अप्लाई होना तो चाहिए ना।
नहीं
वही
ability-
बात कैसे
लेकिन
ability
डज
has
दैट
to
अचीव एनीथिंग ना? ये बात तो यही है, एंड में बाबर आजम
But
ग्राउंड में ही
I
उतरेगा
don't think
और एंड में
keeping
बाबर आजम ही सब कुछ है
captain
आपका।
changes anything either. Keeping him perpetuates that mediocrity is okay.
Yeah, exactly. You need to send a message. I
You
need there
need
to be a
to-
press
at some
release.
point-
सादी भाई, अब देखें आपकी टीम ठीक है, इट कुड नॉट गेट ओवर द फाइनल हर्डल्स, बट यू मेड 2 मेजर फाइनल्स। चलो इन T20 ही सही।
AZ,
आपको तो यार ये वक्त भी याद है, आप
you
सेमीफाइनल सूंघ भी नहीं सकते थे,
won
नॉकआउट
less
स्टेज
than
सूंघ
half
भी
your
नहीं सकते थे
games.
यार।
You won less than half your games. That is damning an indictment.
I need
If
you to
Win
it
4 out of
helps,
9.
I'm just saying that it shouldn't be a reactive thing. It should be a progressive thing. अगर आप लोगों को लग रहा है कि progressive होगी, then
Yeah,
I'm all for it. But I
absolutely.
know कि वही कबाल एक प्लेयर्स का 4-5 प्लेयर का जो एक है पावर
Yaar, Rizwan is
स्ट्रक्चर है, वो
different.
चेंज नहीं होने वाला। तो
आई
फिर
एम
फर्क
नॉट
क्या
सेइंग
पड़ता
कि
है?
वो कैप्टन बदले एज एन एक्ट ऑफ रिवेंज और एनीथिंग लाइक दैट। मैं बाबर को ये नहीं कह रहा कि उसने ही इज कमिटेड सम क्राइम एज अ कैप्टन और पनिश करो उसे, नथिंग लाइक
I
दैट।
think you
आई
should
थिंक
say that.
इन माय माइंड इट इज अ प्रोग्रेसिव मूव, इट इज अ
I think you
प्रोग्रेसिव मूव।
should
आई एम
say that.
थिंकिंग ऑफ द फ्यूचर, आई एम थिंकिंग ऑफ द फ्यूचर,
The
जस्ट द
last 5
फ्यूचर।
games in which 3
यार
of them
प्रोग्रेसिव मूव कैसे, अगर आप
won
किसी 31 साल के
competitive
प्लेयर को
games.
कैप्टन बना दो?
By the way, when you take a
तो
wicket,
अभी 2-3 साल ही ना।
Against India, England, and
4
Afghanistan,
साल
you
तो है
weren't
ना
even
वर्ल्ड कप में,
competitive.
कोई वनडे ही नहीं है
Yeah.
आपके।
Sadi, you were saying?
Against India, England, and Afghanistan, you weren't even competitive in 3 of those losses.
Also, Elias has said, I don't want him to go because he's not committed a crime. I completely disagree with that. He has committed multiple crimes on the field by being an awful captain. When you take a wicket and you refuse to bring on your fast bowlers and then you don't even put a slip, which is like that is a crime. Like, I'm sorry. When you play gully cricket, right? You know that stuff. That he has committed multiple crimes against sport in the last 4 years, which is fine because I will ignore the crimes he's committed over the first 2 years because he was learning. But he's the third highest number of he's to play the third highest number of matches as a captain. So he has learned a lot. Okay, and Imran Khan only managed as a captain 45 more matches than Babar Azam did. So I mean, we have seen everything there is to be seen, and I do not think that Rizwan is a cosmetic change. Rizwan, people listen to him. He is more proactive. He is not reactive, and his fielding position as a wicketkeeper allows him to navigate and look at the game in a different light than Babar Azam does. So it's a no-brainer. I want there to be a press release before they land. I want him to land to that press release. That's what I would like.
Move on and try and wrap up.
हमारे भाई यही ना वो नवाज शरीफ वाला सीन ना हो जाए कि keep his plane in the air till he resigns.
That's what I want. Listen, can we please do that?
Let's try and wrap up. Let me ask each one of you your biggest regret from this World Cup, whether it was a match, a moment. What's the one regret as a fan?
Osama Mir's catch.
नहीं यार 155 for 2 पे आपने वो मैच that was the first time in a World Cup match we truly had India over a barrel और हमने बहुत गंदा बॉटल किया.
I agree. I will go for
बहुत
that.
गंदा बॉटल किया यार.
If you look at all
पिच
the
भी
other
ड्राई
teams,
थी, बॉल भी पुराना था, 2 बैट्समैन आपके 50 पे हैं, कुलदीप यादव का 1 ओवर रहता था, आपने निकालना था. It was a बहुत गंदी implosion थी यार.
if you look at all the other teams that India has played, nobody has batted better than Pakistan has up to that point. At 155 to 2. To me, that's
I would say बांग्लादेश ने पुणे में अच्छा खेला था, लेकिन वो बहुत ही फ्लैट विकेट है. But yes, we had them over a barrel और सीन ऑन था यार. 310-20 का टारगेट बिल्कुल सीन ऑन था, and that could have been a completely different World Cup for us.
Ali, biggest regrets or biggest moments you'll look back on and sigh?
I think this moustache that he's kept is certainly one of his big regrets of his life. This is disastrous.
Him predicting Pakistan to win the World Cup is his regret. God damn it.
We're not talking about me.
यार वो तुम सबने कहा था, वो तुम सबने
मैंने नहीं
कहा
कहा
था.
था. No, I did not.
नहीं, इसने प्लेयर ऑफ द सीरीज शादाब कहा था शायद, या पता नहीं किसने कहा था.
नहीं फखर कहा था मैंने.
चलो, he has too many
close
regrets to choose from. That's simply like what it is.
My regret, my biggest regret is not giving Fakhar all 9 games of this World Cup. I know AZ ने कहा था वो एक लंबी disagreement हो जाएगी. He was rightfully dropped. I can see that argument. बहुत बुरी form में था. But
You agreed to it on
I
the
think
we have it, and you in fairness, you would have brought him back. You said you would have brought him back for the Australia game.
But
Right,
अब regret का ये होता है ना. It doesn't have to be. It can be like a bit hindsight. थोड़ा सा आ सकता है regret में. I just think seeing how Fakhar batted against New Zealand and seeing how other teams are batting and the ceiling that he brings to your side, I just think you should have given him the whole World Cup.
That's another damning thing. So even if we'd beaten England today, that's would have been 2 consecutive World Cups where we would have lost, gone out on net run rate, which again is a damning indictment of how we play cricket. Amar bhai, your biggest regret from this World Cup?
My biggest regret.
He said Osama Mir catch.
Osama Mir catch was one of them, definitely. And my biggest regret, I mean, the moment that sort of shattered
The moment, yes.
Well, yeah, was Babar's wicket to Siraj. Like,
Siraj, right.
Bro, like I've seen him play that shot a million times, and he's done it so well.
And another one for me was Abdullah Shafiq's dismissal to Stoinis. I know कि वो target बहुत बड़ा था, but he was looking so good in that Australia game. Like he was looking the best. Like for me, he was looking the best out of all the batsmen against pace bowling. I think, and coming off of the innings he played against Sri Lanka and all of that, I just think, and even India against जो उसने start किया था, I just think कि like वो अगर उधर out ना होता, I feel like we could have chased that target and he would have played like some ridiculous knock. Obviously, there's no guarantee, but I really felt bad after that dismissal.
To me, high school
Stoinis पे out हुआ था, I think. Am I right? I just want to make
sure. It was his first second ball of Stoinis.
Okay.
To me, when I look back at all of it, I remember there's a high school coach of mine who used to say you have to deserve victory, and I don't think this team did enough to deserve victories. I just think that their approach, their nous, their acumen, their game management, the preparation as a collective, the board, the team, the squad, I just don't think we deserved it at the end. And so, regrets are one thing, but if you don't even deserve something, then c'est la vie.
वही बात है सादी भाई, over the course of 9 matches there really isn't any space for excuses यार. 9 मैच बहुत मैच होते हैं. You had multiple chances to bounce back और आपने बार you let it slip, so to speak, to shout out Steven Gerrard. तो फिर क्या कर सकते हैं?
Another thing is another
micro positions that you could have won from.
I just feel like But sorry. I just
No,
feel
no,
like
go
when
ahead.
we look back at these two last years that we've had, the 21 ka semi-final or jo Asia Cup final, I feel like it's okay to look at one marginal defeat, one close defeat, and say, okay, that was bad luck or they showed up on the day. But I think over the course of all these years, like the semi, the Asia Cup final, the Asia Cup game against Sri Lanka, the match against South Africa here, all of these close games, I feel like when you lose so many close games over such a large sample size and you win, I don't think we've won any like the margins, won on the margins ever over these last few years. I just think at that point you can read into it and you can say that this is a recurring issue and you can say that this is some kind of systemic issue. Because I think at this point, like I said, we have enough of a sample size losing these marginal games that it should be read into.
You had the Naseem win against Afghanistan, but that's about the only.
नहीं वो मार्जिनल थोड़ी थी अली असद आपने मतलब एंड ऑफ द डे यू screwed the pooch
कौन
so
सी
to
वाली?
speak जो using a very crude expression ऑस्ट्रेलिया वाली साउथ अफ्रीका वाली ये
No, but
वाली
those
South
were
Africa
marginals.
was,
You were in it. South
yeah.
Africa 50 for 8, Australia
अब
before
वही
it
उनके
got out, you were
उनके
in it.
टेल एंडर आपके फास्ट बॉलर्स के 4 ओवर खेल गए
Sri
तो फिर
Lanka
नवाज को
was
क्या गाली देनी है यार व्हाई यू
had
ब्लेमिंग
नहीं
नवाज फॉर
नवाज
नॉट
को नहीं दे
डिफेंडिंग
रहा,
5
but I'm
runs
no, but
saying
I'm just saying generally
no, but we lost that the 2022 World Cup game to India on fine margins. Sri Lanka in the Asia Cup final they were 5 down and you lost that, so you are losing a lot of.
So let's just quickly, like 90 for 5, 59 for 5,
Yep.
33 for 4, and 155 for 2. I've given you 4 examples in a period of 16 months where we were, if you were to add the win predictor on during these times, our win percentage was above 75%, right? And we did not lose only because of somebody else's individual brilliance. We lost because of our own incompetence.
And if you flip the script, we wouldn't have won those games had we been in those positions.
Oh, absolutely not. No, absolutely.
The
No,
other
no,
thing.
no.
कोई
Yeah,
बात नहीं यार ये
there's no
मसल
way.
मेमोरी बिल्ड होती है यार अभी बहुत क्रिकेट बाकी है 23-24 साल के लड़के हैं यार क्यों इतना आप हार्श हो रहे हो कोई बात
No,
नहीं
I don't think that I disagree. I don't think this team is as young as people say they are. I was
Yeah,
listening to
they're
spaces
not.
today as well,
Babar
and
Azam
people
is
were saying
29 years old. He's
this is a
nearly
young
30.
team.
He's
I
1
don't
in
think
33.
they've played.
सादी भाई imagine the post World Cup conversations for Indian fans after 2015 and
No, I'm
2019
sure. I'm
वो भी
sure.
यही सोच रहे होंगे कि भाई हमारी प्राइम टीम नहीं जीती रोहित 100 पे 100 500 मार रहा है विराट कोहली 650 मार रहा है शमी विकेट ले रहा है बुमराह डोमिनेट कर रहा है मतलब होता है यार हर चीज का टाइम होता है आई थिंक आवर टाइम अपना टाइम आएगा सो टू स्पीक
Yeah, but easy
इट जस्ट नीड्स टू पे ऑफ वंस और ट्वाइस
It
अभी
does.
6 माह में अगर पे ऑफ कर जाए तो हम ये सब बातें भूल जाएंगे 6 माह में
We'll see. That's why we watch the games. Thank you, gentlemen.
I don't think ये World Cup में बोलेंगे.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
यार तुमने आखिर में भी मनूस बात करनी थी जीतेंगे यार हम कैरिबियन में क्यों टेंशन लेते हो हमारी T20 टीम स्टैक्ड है आजम आएगा साइम
Oh
आएगा
God, I cannot do this. I cannot do
आजम
this.
आएगा तो ये literally stacked हो जाएगी हमारी T20 टीम.
यार
That's a good point.
सादी
to
भाई
wrap.
प्लीज क्लिप दिस वी डोंट वांट टू गेट कैंसल्ड
No, put it in.
No, we'll keep this in, but yeah, well, I can't wait for. I remember after the Zimbabwe game, I was on listening to you guys, and you guys were talking about how we're going to win this World Cup. Here we Here we
यार
oh.
आप मैं तो 3 साल से 4 साल से इस वर्ल्ड कप का ख्वाब देख रहा था यार it's very शायद the misery hasn't set in yet थोड़े से
No, it's
compartmentalize
you brought
कर
up a
लिए
good point, Izzy, that the Asia Cup really screwed us mentally, physically, emotionally. Just the back and forth travel, the way we lost to India, a lot of it stemmed from that. Yes, there was ineptitude before, then after that, during the World Cup, but there's always a sort of where something germinates.
Yeah.
So. Thank you, gents.
Thank you, Sarve.